the March 21st, 2024 Airport Commission meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Greg Collier,
Here.
Cameron McGarren,
Here.
Jim Ulmer,
Here.
Steve Smith, Joel Gardner,
Here.
Micah Thomason, Jason McMullen.
Here. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes from last month? Any questions? I'd ask for a motion to approve.
So move.
Motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Okay, this is our section for comments from the audience. If you're not on the agenda and you have something to present to the commission, now is your opportunity. You would have a maximum of 5 minutes. All right, moving along. Item number 5, is Teddy Flynn here? Mr. Flynn. Okay, Mr. Flynn has been notified to be here today to discuss his hangar. He has an inoperable aircraft that's been there for quite some time. So since he has not come to this meeting, I would ask for a motion to terminate his lease, and we will open that lease up to the next person on the list.
Prior to making that motion, my question is, what do we do with the abandoned aircraft that's in it?
James, Ernest?
So we'll notify him. Can you hear me? We'll notify him that the lease has been terminated and that he needs to get any property he has out of there. And if he does not, the law requires us to keep it in safekeeping and give him a reasonable time to come retrieve it, which we'll do. And just for the record, he did sign for the certified letter to be notified to be here today.
With that information, I'll make a motion to go ahead and terminate the lease and take possession of the aircraft until he does.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to terminate the lease. Roll call vote, please.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
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 Okay, so that lease has been terminated. Laura, if you will contact the next person down on the list and let them know that that hangar is now available. Okay, is Mr. Max Crabtree here today? Would you come to the podium, please? Thank you for coming, Mr. Crabtree.
Thank you for having me.
We received an email from you, or Laura received an email from you. I don't have it right in front of me, but recently saying that you, well, let me just get it so I know exactly.
It's on page 11 of the packet.
And you stated my hangar was transferred to Gary O'Neill 2 years ago.
Yeah, I sold the plane to the Northwest Arkansas Flying Club, which I'm still a member of, but they have ownership of the plane now.
Okay, so you do not own a plane there.
Not directly, no.
Okay. And so let's go back as a commission. I want to. So in the lease agreement, under subletting, if I can read this, get my glasses close here. Lessee may not sublet the premises in whole or in part of a sign or transfer this lease or any interest therein without the prior written consent of the lessor, the Airport Commission, the city. Also, or any such assignment without lessor's consent shall be void and shall, at the option of the lessor, terminate this lease. So, in paraphrasing that, you transferred that 2 years ago to someone.
But to be
And-
honest with you, when I signed the lease, I didn't read the whole thing, so I wasn't really aware of all the ins and outs of it.
Unfortunately, that doesn't hold any water
Yeah,
with
I
us.
understand, I understand. Just I wasn't aware it was in
That
there.
being said, you voided your lease when you transferred it, in your words, to someone else.
I just figured with being part of the flying club that it would still be related, but, yeah, again, don't really know the ins and outs of it.
Yeah, I probably should have come to the commission to discuss it, to see what your options were at that point, rather than, in essence, subleasing it to someone else.
Yeah, I didn't intentionally violate anything, I was just ignorant to the rules.
Understood, understood. So that being said, let me get back to my.
It does appear that this hangar is behind on lease payments as well. Is that true?
Because it's not yours. So my thoughts on this are, based on our lease, last month when we met and we visited on this, I felt like we weren't quite prepared. I was not as prepared as I should have been in discussing this and in coming to a judgment on this. And going back to our lease agreement, it clearly states how to and what to do if you want to sublease your hangar, or if you want someone to take over your hangar. That was obviously not done the correct way. So I really feel like, and I'd be willing, I don't really want to spend a lot of time on this. If the commission has comments or concerns they'd like to bring up, I'm willing to, or questions that they would have for Mr. Crabtree, let's go ahead and address those.
I don't think I have any questions at this point in time, just based on the information from the email. It clearly states that he transferred, which is a breach of contract. And unfortunately, with it being a breach of contract, this is null and void, so.
Then I would ask for a motion to terminate the lease, and we will open that hangar up to the next person on the list.
I'll go ahead and make that motion. Just like I did last month, I'll make a motion to terminate the lease of hangar number 1-03 for violation of the contract.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to terminate the lease for hangar 103. Mr. Ulmer, did you second that?
Yes, I did.
Roll call vote, please.
Gardner,
Yes, ma'am.
Collier,
Yes.
McMullen,
No.
Smith, Thomason, Ulmer,
Yes.
McGarren.
Yes.
Okay, so that passes. That lease is terminated. Laura, the next person on the list, will you contact them for us? Thank you for coming in, Mr. Crabtree.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 7. Cameron, would you like to go to the podium and present to us?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. So we are in desperate need of some office space at the Springdale Municipal Airport. As you walk into the airport, just to your right, there's kind of a little nook there. It's roughly 12 by 12 is what Laura and I looked at, 12 by 12 space. We have got some quotes to enclose that, just to kind of see what it would look like, or from a cost perspective, what it would look like to create an office there. It's space that's public space right now, but it would be turned into rentable space, I guess, if we enclosed it. We are looking at making it really nice with, frosted glass. I put some pictures in the packet there, kind of as an example of what that would look like. And the estimates that we have received so far are roughly around $7,000, believe it or not, to enclose it with glass. But we are in desperate need of some office space. And with the expense and the improvement to the terminal building, the only thing that I would request besides being able to enclose this and make it rentable space is that we may defer any kind of rent on it for 3 years to help us offset some of those costs to do that. But that's what we'd like to do with your permission, so.
So I have a few questions.
Yep.
12 by 12, I didn't take a measure to see, I just kind of walked it off. It seems like it's a little longer than it is wide.
12
That's
by
what I
15?
had
Okay.
walked off was 12 by 15, so.
I may have gotten that mixed up because we were doing the office upstairs.
I was just guessing when he initially asked me, and then I went down and walked it off too, and it's about 12 by 15.
Yep.
That's what I was thinking, okay.
Sorry about that.
So does that change the cost from the 12 by 12 that you said, or did they?
No, because they're only enclosing, they measured the front of, the open area right there. So that's what was measured, not the actual depth of the office. So that open hole was measured by a glass company. In fact, it was the glass company that did the towers, the glass up on the towers. And the estimate that he gave me was $7,200 to enclose it.
Okay, that's with
frosted
one
glass.
door, I guess?
Say what now?
That's with one door?
Yes, with one door. It'd be one door, just kind of like an office door that would open and close into that space.
And what's the reasoning for the frosted glass versus clear glass?
Just for privacy purposes. To be honest with you, that it would end up being an office that I would be in. Especially, having discussions, HR-related discussions and things like that, just for privacy purposes. That's why we would want to frost that glass. Now, it would be clear at the top. We were only going to frost kind of the bottom section of it. So about, I'd say maybe 2 foot of it would be clear at the top.
Okay. I look at that space, and that's a prime location at the airport. So I don't know from a rental standpoint, I don't know what we would look at. James, maybe if you could help me with this, or Laura, from a rental standpoint, based off square footage, I don't think that needs to be the same per se as upstairs restaurant. Any ideas or thoughts on that?
I can't remember exactly, but the small cubicle that's right inside the door, I believe it rents for $300 a month, but I have to double back to make sure I haven't messed with it in so long.
I'm just thinking through this as we're talking. So if, let's say if it were 300, that seems light to me, but we'll just use that round number. A 12-month period would be 3,600, 2 years would be 7,200, and you're asking for 3 years.
So the math that I came up with, it was just based on the office that was upstairs. It rents for $150 a month. I took $7,200 and divided by $200 a month. That's where I came up with the 3 years. So
Perfect, gotcha.
that was my math.
Okay, that makes sense. Commission questions?
Of course. Number one, I see that this is a lounge, so what would we do with the current furnishings that are in there? Number two, just for the sake of late night working, early morning working, that type of thing, is any electrical work got to be done to isolate the lights in that area from the other area? Number three would be at what point in time, if this gets done, or how does this fit into any concepts, plans that Daniel and his crew have going on? I just want to make sure that everything across the board, all of our tenants are working together. And number four, I mean, $400 a month is what we're doing a complete restaurant for, so I don't see that being out of range as far as what we're doing for prime space down here. I just want to make sure that everybody that's a current tenant in there can work together with this space now being occupied.
So I can answer some of those questions. So in regards to the electrical, it appears at one point in time that this space was isolated at one point because it does have its own light switch in there and other things like that. So I don't believe any electrical work's going to have to be done. It's just closing it off. The second part of your questions in regards to other tenants working together, one of the reasons for asking for this is because Summit is looking at renovating, and we may have to vacate some of our premises upstairs. So we and myself and Daniel have talked a lot about where would we go if they decide to renovate upstairs. So this was kind of a preemptive move to make sure that, you know, all businesses on the airfield were supporting each other and had adequate space to continue operating and continue, you know, with their business so that we had enough space to take care of our customers. So yes, all those conversations have happened. Would you
And
agree with that, Daniel? Yep.
refresh my memory, a couch and 2 chairs?
Yeah, you have 4 chairs, couch.
Would that couch fit outside up against that glass wall
Yeah,
without hindering walking through?
yeah, I would think so.
I would think we have space to the left as you walk in for 4 chairs, to add 4 chairs, or even to do a separate little seating area. Or, yeah, upstairs. I don't think that would be a big issue. That, I've asked, I think it was Daniel and I that talked, that area does not get used much at all.
Yeah. And you're right, it doesn't get used much at all, so.
It used to be just like what that first little cubicle is. There was another wall in between those two. So it was another little cubicle area and then a luggage area that we just took that center wall out and opened it all up.
So right before that area, there's a very small room. Is that being used for anything?
Yes, Summit's got it for their stuff.
Refrigerator, stuff like that.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So that wouldn't be a problem to leave that as it is for either of you. That's totally separate opening. Any other questions?
What kind of resolution are you looking from us today?
So I'm looking for approval to close in that area with frosted glass. That's the primary request so that we can utilize that as an office space instead of it being a public space. Secondly, the consideration was deferring the rent based on the cost that we would have to do the terminal improvement, so. So 2 requests, close it in and help with deferring the rent based on the expense that we're going to have.
Do you know what the timeline is for closing it in? From the green button go to ready to occupy, how much time?
So I was told that we could probably start by the end of April, and the timeline to get it done would take a couple of 3 weeks to get it done. So you're looking at May-ish, mid-May, into May.
I don't know that I have a number in my head yet to be able to greenlight this for you as far as a monthly lease agreement goes. And can you get us something in writing from whoever the company is showing exactly the cost and what will be done? And then, of course, I think we're on the same page with this. Once that lease runs out, that just stays and becomes city property there.
Yeah. Yep.
I think let's move this to next month. I know you're anxious and eager to get it going, but if you could come back with a proposal from the company that's willing to do it, and that'll give us time to get our numbers together on what we can come up with for a monthly rental fee.
Sure, sounds good.
Can I make an alternative suggestion? That today we go ahead and give them the green light to actually step into the process of making the modifications, and then us as a commission give you the authority to negotiate with him, James, and yourself as a representative of the commission for a lease contract and the lease agreements. And that we bring that contract we bring back next month to the commission meeting. But that way we can get 3 weeks, 4 weeks ahead.
I'm fine with that.
So my motion will be that we give authority to go ahead and start the modification process, and that our chairman go into a financial agreement on behalf of the commission with yourself and James.
I second the motion.
Motion and second. Roll call vote, please.
Collier,
Yes.
McGarren,
Yes.
He can't vote.
I was trying to be funny. Sorry. I know.
Gardner,
Yes, ma'am.
Ulmer,
Yes.
McMillan,
Yes.
Okay. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, update from Summit. Daniel?
Good afternoon. I've got two things today. First, just real quick, we'll run through our fuel. So again, as I say every month, are up and down between 2 and 5% between Jet A. 38,837 gallons for Jet, again, very good number. But our Avgas number is the real winner for last month, and it comes with the springtime's coming along, a lot better weather, a lot more flight school activity, really helping with operations and fuel consumption, of course. So kind of standard stuff, looking to get back into springtime, more happening. I will make a note that so far this month, I got a phone call over the weekend that we sold a whole lot more fuel than we expected, had to make a quick call to get another load in. The same thing happened on Tuesday. So in the last 5 days, we've taken on almost 16,000 gallons of jet fuel onto the airport that has just moved quickly for some reason. So that's great. Love hearing that. So looking forward to seeing what the numbers actually end up being at the end of this month. And then looking historically, we are increasing over the years, these different numbers. Operations at the airport, again, reiterating on the fuel sales, things are just busier for us. We've had a kind of a slow start to the week, but normal operations doing really well. Really expecting to kind of continue on and looking at what my staff need from me as far as being able to handle everything, especially the early morning operations. We're really starting to see an uptick with those, especially on the eastern side of the airfield. We've got that large shed, that Sovereign based over there, and they are out in and out all the time, taking a lot of our time, also taking a lot of fuel. So very good. So I'm trying to juggle all of that. And then restaurant, of course, trucking along, doing a great job. Good things coming from them and the customers that are utilizing that restaurant. Had lunch up there today, and it was great. Moving on to the bigger item I'd like to go over with you guys. I've talked to each of you, and Mr. Smith and Mr. Ulmer, Micah is not here. Mr. Ulmer's already here. So what we would like to do is to request an additional 5-year option. As you know, we have about 7 or 8 years left on the current lease now. We've used our first option. We are currently in our second option, our second 5-year option. We would like to request an additional option be added on to the current contract. That's the only change, nothing else changing within the contract. What we want to do is to be able to better plan our long-term endeavors, and that's going to be through airport improvement, through revitalizing one of the hangars, some of the rooms upstairs that Cameron is currently occupying as a private pilot's lounge, and then also being able to better invest our finances into equipment that we're going to need. As I discussed with you when we met, we were seeing a bigger need for aircraft towing capabilities. So where we station what kind of equipment is going to become more vital to us when it comes to time management, ramp management, fuel operations. And then, of course, when it comes to providing power to the aircraft that we're seeing, we have one GPU that can do anything that we need it to do. But we are getting to the point where that is not quite as capable as we need. It is capable, but we need more than one. And that's a big expense. So if we have another tug, maybe 30,000, another GPU, 50,000, probably more than that. That's what the other one was. So these are the expenses we're looking at, as well as the refurbishment. We want to be able to, with the refurbishment, provide really nice amenities for our customers, for the people who are coming in and utilizing our facilities for long hours. Of course, I think you all know we get the children's flights every day from Little Rock, and the pilots are waiting around. They've got their own car at the airport, so they can come and go as they need, but ultimately, because they're pilots flying for what they're doing, they need to be ready, and so it means a lot of time at the airport. We want to be able to give people like that, that's the perfect example, a place where they can go, they can get away, they can be in a nice, quiet place, be entertained with amenities in there, be comfortable with really nice furniture, and also be able to get a shower, wash clothes if, maybe they're working on the airplane, get a grease stain. But that's what we want to be able to do. A nice, quiet place, and especially for some of our tenants that are doing late-night operations. We have a lot of organ donor teams that come into Northwest Arkansas, and those pilots are going to be waiting around for a little while, maybe a few hours at a time. If we give them a facility that they can go into and relax and get away from everything in the middle of the night, get a couple hours of sleep and get rested, that would save them spending the extra money calling us just to come out and let them sit in the lounge and make a pot of coffee for them when they could just walk into the door and they're taken care of and they don't have to call anybody or, spend that money it takes to get a call out. An additional crew car. We have 3 crew cars right now. 3 is 2 more than you'll find at most airports. 3 is also 1 less than what we find we need. Because we are so busy, we have so much more happening than we did even 5 years ago. We find that our cars are in and out all the time. All 3 will be gone, within a day, just for different reasons, different amounts of time. And so being able to have another car or a bigger car, like our small one is not quite capable. It doesn't have the room. If we could replace that with something a little bit more capable, a Durango minivan, whatever it might be, that's another cost that we would like to be able to take on to better facilitate the needs of our customers. Of course, it's a bigger cost as well, but it really makes us a lot more valuable in the eyes of somebody who's trying to come into Northwest Arkansas and maybe they just need a car for a couple hours. We don't charge for that, so they can just hop in and go and they can take their whole team of people with them. So again, the addition of 5 years of an option onto the end of our contract is really going to be beneficial when it comes to amortizing these costs out over a long period of time to be better able to absorb these costs and utilize these assets to their full capabilities. And so making sure that all of our ducks are in a row when it comes to if we have to finance any of this equipment or buy it outright, that we can realize the full potential of this equipment and best utilize it. And so looking for you guys to allow us to add that option onto the end of the contract to give us that extra 5 years, we believe, based on what we have discussed with you, provide you as far as a layout of what we're actually looking at cost-wise. We believe this is a fair offer. And it is, we also believe it is the best interest of the airport. It allows for you guys to realize at the airport some great airport improvement opportunities while not having to foot any of the cost at all. And so with that, I'll turn it over to you for discussion, questions, whatever you have.
Okay.
I'd love to hear your thoughts.
A couple of questions real quick from me. What kind of time frame are we looking at from start to finish to get all these improvements done?
So the improvements themselves, as soon as we have the green light, we're going to get started. We're going to get somebody in to actually start, putting a hammer to the walls and refurbishing everything, and also to give us estimates for the actual cost. We've got our rough cost. It's what we were able to afford to do before we actually really started spending money on something we didn't know if we would realize the benefits from. So we don't have any reason to wait at all. As soon as we can, we'll get somebody in there to get us a quote and then get on the schedule for this refurbishment.
So will you separate these and do these in sections, or will you do, like I'm thinking from a furniture standpoint, would it not be wise to get all your furniture at once from a cost saving standpoint and do all those, or what's your plan for that?
Yeah, kind of break it down more into where we can do a refurbishment is going to be one section, and then tug purchase, GPU purchase will be their own sections. So each major portion of this request will be done on its own as we can do it. Mark Myers, the owner.
To answer your original question, realistically, we're probably looking at a timeline of all this being completed by about the end of the year. One of the things that'll be relatively pretty quick that we kind of have comments on is like refurbishing the conference room so that we have it to be a nice facility, that it's pleasant to go into. I'm not saying that it's not nice, it's clean, but to have a little bit upgraded and a pleasant facility going there, that's pretty easy and quick. And the furnishings for that are different than what we would use in the crew room, which are, all this stuff is pretty stock. The renovations of the, over in, what is that, 11? Yeah, over in Hangar 11 will kind of be the most, a little bit of the time consuming. There's nothing structural, there's nothing, it's just old and dated. So we need to go in there in the bathrooms, that'll be the first project in there, just basically cleaning up new wall surface, new tile, or vinyl floored tile, we're not sure which on that, but to refurbish those baths are nice so that we have the ability now to offer as part of a snooze room for crew that also will have a shower facility. And then part of the renovation in there, we'll also end up with a washer and dryer that now will be able to take care of the linens for the things like the blankets and stuff that we use in the lounges now and the crew. So all those things kind of all tie together. But, this isn't something that we're going to have a madhouse rush, but my goal is to have all this accomplished by the end of the year.
Okay. Commission questions?
Have we ever extended a contract like this before?
Not to my knowledge.
They did once for Springdale Air years ago, whenever they built that hangar right next to on the north side of the terminal. They tied it into the FBO agreement and extended, I think, 15 years with the lease for that. It's the only thing I can remember.
I will say, it's nice to have a good FBO that we can count on and that we don't get complaints on and that do a good job for us. So we appreciate that.
I would echo exactly what you said. I've been at that airport for a very long time, and the team that manages the FBO, fuel cells, the facilities up there, they do a great job. No complaints whatsoever, and no complaints from anybody that walks in that terminal building. So they do a great job. I don't see any reason why we wouldn't want to keep them there.
I concur with that. I think both Summit and Daniel do a great job with community outreach. They support aviation both in the community and in the region. They're both very active. And I truly agree that they are an asset to community. So I don't see an extra 5 years, in my opinion, being anything other than a positive continuance of a great relationship.
And this has been addressed already, but obviously you got to work with everybody within the airport if we decide to move forward with this, and it's going to affect others. We just got to work together as a team to make everybody as happy as possible.
Well, as Cameron had mentioned earlier, one of the things we had discussed, displacing him out of the office upstairs or that lounge that he's using, how we're going to dedicate one of those rooms over there in 11 so that he'll be able to have a training facility to move it over in 11. So the coordination of that to make sure that we have that done and ready before we start trying to updo the pilot's lounge. I mean, that's why we're looking at that whole year to make all this work.
Any other discussion? I'd ask for a motion.
I'll make a motion to extend their contract for another 5 years with the improvements that they suggested here.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Ulmer,
Yes.
McCarron,
Yes.
McMullen,
Yes.
Gardner,
Yes, ma'am.
Collier.
Yes. Okay,
Thank you,
we're
Commissioners.
past. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. And whenever I give my monthly updates, I'll also be sure to update the progress of our endeavors.
It'd be really nice too for some of those that don't come around as much, if you can get some pictures and show
Absolutely.
us
Yeah,
during the construction part of it.
definitely.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Kate?
Well, seeing how I've already got 4 things to do as a result of this meeting, I don't have anything else to discuss.
Nothing to add.
Okay, Laura?
Okay, hangar rent, you have the list in your packet. This is an old list from March 7th. Today's list, Greg has a copy of it, and the majority of these have been taken care of. And if they haven't been, they've been contacted to take care of it, so.
So I guess we'll be sending Mr. Crabtree a final notice for his balance due. Okay?
And then there was a request for the wait list, that's in the packet, and then also my spreadsheet that has all the tail numbers listed for the planes that are in each hangar is also in the packet.
So that's current,
Yes, current as I can have it, it is, yes.
and your plan is to continue with that and to cross-check to make sure
Yeah,
the
it took
planes
me,
in the hangars,
it took
is
me
it?
probably 3 weeks at the end of the year to get I cross-checked all the names and stuff. So that's just how I came up with some of this stuff going on and investigated it more before we brought it here. But yeah, you just do that randomly, regularly. If we see something that we don't normally see, we'll check it.
Perfect. Thanks for
But, yeah,
your extra work on that, too.
Keep that spreadsheet every time a hangar changes over, which is very rare, but update it and I send it to the clerk's office and things
I
like
would
that.
say one step further maybe on this wait list, if maybe every quarter we could update that if it needs updated. I don't know how much updating it will need necessarily, but if meetings go like this one today, we're going to have some open hangars and some new folks moving up. So
Yeah, I randomly have people call and say, I called 2 years ago, where am I at? And I'm like, you've moved one spot. No, but yeah, we do the best we can out there, keeping everything updated. And sometimes if I call a phone number and it's disconnected or something, I don't really have a choice but to take it off the list. Sometimes I keep their name there, but there's no number, so I can't contact them in case they call me. I'll have their name still.
okay. Any questions for Laura?
Yeah, how many open T hangars do we have currently right now? Are they all full? Not the closed ones, but the open T hangars?
Yeah, everything's full. Well, today now, we'll have 2 open after today.
So on this hangar list, when I'm looking at the past due payments, this city question, I guess, is when do we really consider these payments past due? Because I see a lot of payments still due in this 1 to 30 day column.
I believe that they don't charge a late fee until the 20th or the 21st, which is probably why a lot of these have dropped off since the original list was put in this packet.
Okay. I saw my name on the list and I'm like, I know I made my payment.
I know, Summits has come on a few times too, and I'm like, Daniel, we paid it already, so.
One question I have is, line item 29, it looks like hangar 305, Rusty Coonfield, not airworthy, described not airworthy. Is it as in, Teddy Flynn not airworthy, or?
He's currently working on it. He's rebuilding the motor, I believe,
Very good, thank you.
which does comply with the FAA guidelines on that, as long as you're actively working to get it airworthy again. But he doesn't want to have to pay taxes on it, I think is probably if it's not airworthy, I don't think they count it. I'm not sure how that works. It counts different with the FAA on our counts. So they want aircraft that flies, and that's how we get a lot of our grant money. So I'll have to mark down not airworthy on it.
Any other questions for Laura? I will say, I spoke with Laura last week, I think it was, and I'm not going to rehash all this, but we're having trouble with folks parking on grass within the fence. So everywhere that they are not allowed to park, make sure we have a sign up, no parking, and vehicles will be towed at owner's expense. And when they're there, have them towed, and then we will not have this discussion any longer.
Yep, James is in the process of getting signs made for us out there, so.
Perfect.
And then I also gave you the flooring estimates to redo our stairs, to remove that carpet and put rubber treads. And there'll be rubber, the risers will be the rubber cove molding. And then the landings will be the same type of rubber. I'm not sure why they're so far apart in what the estimates are on the three of them, but
Well, I know Gary's Home and Floor does a great job in everything that they do, so I would not hesitate to use them. And they're obviously the low bidder. I think that needs done.
If we do this, do we know how long it would take before they can get started? Especially if they're going to start working and doing the renovations upstairs on their work?
he told me that the Gary's flooring, he told me that his supplier has it in stock. So as soon as they can get an installer, I imagine. I haven't been able to talk to him recently because he had a death in his family, so it's been a little hard to get a hold of the last few days.
I'd ask for a motion to approve this bid from Gary's Floor and Home.
So move. Second that.
Motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, will you contact them, Laura, and get that going for us?
Yes, I will.
Thank you. Anything else?
I don't think that's anything else now.
Okay. James, activity report.
As Daniel said, the fuel sales is up and activity's up, so it's looking good for a record-setting year last year, and now we're beating it this year, so that's always good. Our tower equipment is in, the radio and recorder. I spoke with Tom, and he's hoping by either the last week of this month, the first week of April to get started, getting that installed in the tower. And Mike's, anytime's good for him, because he says it fades every day, gets worse.
And that's not a long process, is it?
To install? Well, it depends on how much remodeling they have to do for our old countertops to get the new equipment in. So we're hoping not a lot, but he's probably gonna have to run cables and everything from the bottom up, so it could take a little bit. I got an email right before the meeting from the FAA, so we got declined on our FAA grant for the tower improvement. So they just recommend that we keep applying. So I'm sure Greg will reapply.
Yeah.
That's all I
Anything
have.
else?
That's it.
Thank you, James.
Yes, sir.
All right, that's your cue, Greg. Garver update.
Good afternoon. I actually don't have a whole lot to update you all on today. I won't even bother plugging in my computer unless we get into some questions. But the two ongoing projects, the first one is the Powell Hangar reconstruction project. So I have good news on that one. As you remember, we've kind of been stalled on that while we've had some turnover with the contractors, project management team. But we were able to have the pre-con meeting earlier this week, so we're expecting them to break ground either tomorrow, but most likely early next week. And then the schedule for finalizing construction on that one is about about 90 days, so 3 months. And so we're looking at about a June timeframe for getting that hangar completed. And so as they get into construction, I'll be able to provide updates at this meeting. But it's a good time of year to be doing construction, so I hope they move fast. Any questions about the Powell Hangar project? Okay. Then the other project is the runway rehabilitation. That'll be the seal coat and grooving project. My last update on this one is that we submitted plans to the FAA for review. So we've gotten some comments back from them, nothing major. So we're still on track to have that project start construction in late summer. And if you remember, it's going to be it is a runway rehab, so it will have impacts to the airport and to the runway, but we're planning on doing about 15 nights of night closures is what we're planning on right now. Any questions about those two projects?
What's the length of that, and how often will the night closures be?
So I don't expect it to be 15 straight nights. What I'm expecting is, and James or Laura, you might have to correct me on this, on the towers, opening hours, but I believe towers, 6 a.m. to 9 p.m.? Yes. Okay, so the plan is whenever the tower shuts down for the day is when we'll start construction, and then we'll be out of their way by 6 a.m. the next day. So that'll be our nightly schedule. I expect the contractor will want to do 2 or 3 nights at a time. And so that 15-night closure could end up taking an entire month if they, do 3 or 4 nights a week for 4 weeks. But that'll kind of be dependent on, it'll be very dependent on weather, if it's going to be rainy or if the humidity is particularly bad for putting down paint. That could really impact being able to open up at 6 a.m. So getting it done in the summer is going to be really important just so that we can make sure we can open up by 6 a.m. and not impact any of those 6 a.m. early operations. Did that answer your question? Okay. Any other questions about that project? Awesome. I believe that's all I had.
Thank you, Greg. Any old business from the commission? Comments from commissioners? Thanks, everyone. We're adjourned.